The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Scarefest Radio, the radio you can see.
And good evening and welcome everyone to another fun-filled episode of Scarefest Television. I'm your host, Wes Forsyth, and tonight, my guest on reasonably short notice, thank you very much, Scott Tepperman. Scott Tepperman, of course, you know from Ghost Hunters International, and we're going to be talking about that in his film, his horror movie career, and he writes, and he's a busy guy. We will have some stuff to go over at the 30-minute mark, some important announcements about the show. So that's pretty much what's going on, everybody. We have a meeting this weekend with the management at Scarefest to kind of hammer down. Is that the correct term? Hammer down, nail down, that's the word, nail down some details. We're trying to get the vendor, for one thing, we're trying to get the vendor floor straightened out. We planned all year on 6-foot social distancing. And fuck that. We don't need social distancing as of June 11th, today. So we just get to pretty much put everybody wherever the hell we want. So now we got to get that all shuffled out, get the rows lengthened, get rid of the little odd spaces we had in, and get all the vendors on the map so they will quit emailing us saying, why am I not on the map? Now, Scott, welcome to the show. Hey, how you guys doing? I'm doing quite well. I don't know if you know anything about Kentucky weather, but it's like rained 24 hours a day for the last 7 days, or threatened rain. It's at least threatened rain. So it's been that type of week. Let's get right into it now. As I warned you, the first segment, we're going to talk about Ghost Hunters International, and because that's what you're really, really famous for. Every one of these questions you probably have memorized, and probably could just have wrote them down and held them up for the screen. First question about that. Where did your interest in the paranormal come from?
I never had any, actually. I know a lot of people had experiences when they were younger, and they wanted to get some answers to what they experienced, and just, they didn't understand certain things. I had always been a horror guy. I've always been to horror movies. Obviously, I'm a big VHS fanatic and a big horror enthusiast. And I grew up with basically no VCR until I was about 13. But before then, I used to hang out, like my friends would hang out on the streets playing, date myself, but I'm saying stickball or something like that, and pop open the fire hydrants and play in the water. You know, I'm from New York, so we got to be all, ghetto-y. But instead of doing that, I'd go to the local video stores and I would just read the back of movies, movie boxes, and make notes and write stuff that I wanted to see. At 10 years old, 11 years old, I'd write the stuff down. When I finally got a VCR, I decided to start renting as much as I could possibly watch. And video stores back then, they didn't care how old you were. You had 99 cents or $1.99. They go ahead and take I spit on your grave. Go ahead, 11-year-old, have a good time. And so I started watching all these horror films. And after I watched all the slasher films, which are my favorite, and then horror and everything else, there was sections called, I think it was fantasy and supernatural. And then I started learning about Poltergeist, Amityville Horror, and all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. And I started realizing, hey, these are, my family told me, in Long Island, not too far from here, because I was in Queens, that's the real thing that happened. They started telling me a little bit about stuff. I started researching a little bit way I could. I would go to libraries and look at books and microfilm and microfiche and stuff like that. And I started getting a little interested in the paranormal. And then when I moved to Florida a dozen, 15 years ago, whatever, a long time ago. They had a paranormal team. I never heard of that. I never knew that such a thing existed, but I joined it, and it was kind of interesting. I just thought the whole thing would kind of be cool to check out and learn a little bit, see that this kind of thing was going on. And I started experiencing certain things and started having my own questions about certain things. And several years into that, there was a casting call online, literally a casting call for GHI, for sci-fi, for a new show, GHI, whatever. And the the uh, the team member that I was with my local team back then applied both of us for the submitted both of us for this particular position. And I hadn't been interested in it because Ghost Hunters I was a huge fan of. I mean, who wasn't? Ghost Hunters is the OG. They're awesome. And when they came out, they started having contests like um, enter here and you can win some equipment, or enter here and you can get on the show with us as a guest, all this other stuff. And I was trying. I would do so much. I tried really hard to get all this stuff done. Never heard anything. Never got any kind of response whatsoever. And I was kind of frustrated. So by the time GHI came around, I was like, it'll be cool, but I'm not going to waste my time with this. Not going to be, nothing's going to come of it. Well, he submitted us unbeknownst to me, and I started getting calls and a lot of in-depth calls and everything else. They brought me out to California for a screen test, and flew some of the members of GHI that they had already had, like Barry Fitzgerald, Paul Bradford, and all that, who's going to be Scarefest, well, good friend of mine. And we, I guess we hit it off, and I guess I was good enough on camera, and either I was, they brought me up for psychological evaluation, which I guess I failed, and that's how I ended up on the show. But then literally the rest is history.
Totally not what I expected, and I've spoken to you several times. Okay, so well, I mean, it's an honest enough story. You got into ghost hunting, in a weirder way than even I did, and because I just watched too much TV. You actually watch VHS tapes, so I guess that's a correlation there.
Right.
Now you basically, people, if you haven't seen the show, Ghost Hunters International, they went around the world. They went to mostly famous, we'll call them famous locations, tourist traps, if you will. Of the places you went, I'm actually going to do this backwards from the way most people would do it. Of the places you went, which was the most overrated in your opinion?
I just in general, I think the rest of the team really liked when we went to New Zealand. And I particularly, that for me was, I don't want to say a low point. I mean, it was a great experience being on a show. I had no ill will or ill memories about anybody or anything. But I think New Zealand was kind of lackluster for me. I didn't really enjoy it. We had been plagued by earthquakes right before we got there. There was I think there was one while we were there. I didn't particularly enjoy, I don't even remember where we investigated there, but I didn't particularly enjoy being there. So that was probably my least favorite place. One of the reasons I think that I may associate that and have such a negative connotation is because of the fact that I'm a big Insane Clown Posse enthusiast. And I was actually invited to be a guest at the gathering of the Juggalos that year. And I was put on their infomercial. They were pushing me and hyping me up, and I couldn't make it. We were grounded because of these earthquakes, and I never got a chance to appear there. And I think that kind of left a.
Don't worry, you were already in a bad mood. You were already in a bad mood. Now, was it? I don't want to pick too much on my New Zealand friends. Because it's not that it's the same country, but we have a lot of viewers in Australia.
We met a local. Every time we go, we meet local teams or local contacts for us. And the team that we met there, and I apologize, their name escapes me right now, but they were one of the best, coolest bunch of guys we've ever met. They were great. I just personally wasn't totally feeling New Zealand, but they were fantastic. They were knowledgeable, professional, good investigators, as a lot of them are. Unfortunately, so many people end up on a TV show, and in the field, and it's getting a little different now, but in the field, that is kind of taken as legitimacy, and it shouldn't be. There's so many groups out there. I know when I was investigating before I was on any show, I'm like, what's with these jokers? I'm better than these guys. Why don't I get a show? And I know there's tons of people out there that deservedly are more knowledgeable, are more experienced, and should get that opportunity. So, it's good to meet people when they are really good and they're really sharp and they have the right stuff going, because it's tough. It's tough to want to keep that drive going when you feel like you're not being noticed or just overlooked all the time. It's tough.
I do understand that. My answer to that always, and in particular about, now, not to pick on the show, Ghost Adventures. They catch some flack. And my thing on it always was, though, there's some teenage girl watching that show right now, and she's going to go to college and study physics, and she's going to just put the rest of us to shame, and you're going to be able to trace it back to her watching the TV show. So, I mean, the TV shows, yeah, they're geared for entertainment. There's no getting around that. A lot of this, I'm sure what you all consider the more serious part of the investigation never made it on the screen.
Right.
Now, paranormally, okay, New Zealand you didn't like because you had a bad taste in your mouth going in. Other than that, it probably would have been a beautiful
the beach
beautiful
was
country.
Great. The scenery was great. I just personally was not feeling that one.
Let's go back to the question. I'm wanting to know, is there any place that you remember investigating that had all of this lore and paranormal advertising that when you all walked out the door you said no, or did you all just give it the benefit of the doubt from you're only there for a night or two?
Right, and we always tell people that, and every time I still do a lot of events. I may not be front and center with the paranormal right now, which, hey, I'm available. I'm quite active. But we always tell people, and I'm very envious of local teams that get to go to these local haunts in their neighborhood, or at least within driving distance, and they get to establish some kind of a relationship with something. It's tough enough to start any kind of contact whatsoever. So for these people to be able to go to a particular location, make note of it, build on it, grow from it, start feeling out you start getting to a place where, I can feel this and I can sense this. You start establishing that kind of relationship, which to me ends up being really productive. I know a lot of local teams that do such a thing, and I'm envious of that, because we go over to these cool countries and everyone's like, oh, that's great, but usually they're not the most desirable areas. Either they're very touristy or they're very rundown, abandoned areas. So we don't usually see the country. We fly in it. Well, we'd fly in and out for a week. We get there, get settled. 1 or 2 days we'd investigate. We'd have evidence review for a day or two, and maybe we'd have 1 day off, and then we're off to the next place. So if we were investigating for a location 2 or 3 days, we may say something like, yeah, your place is haunted, see you later. I mean, we don't have the ability to keep going there. But at the same time, we could also go to a place that we understand that you're here on a daily basis and you're seeing an escalation in activity, or some kind of something in the atmosphere is changing, or some feelings are being different, and you can build on that, and you should build on it. And you can we've had a lot of people still stay in contact with us over the years. There's a couple that actually still do once in a while, but overall, we would say when we were there with cameras and with people running in and throwing wires all the place, we didn't experience anything. It doesn't mean it's not haunted. Doesn't mean it is haunted. Right. But we were very quick to say that it's okay. When we first started the show, we had different producers and everything else, and they ran stuff differently, which was fine. But a lot of the shows wanted, this place is haunted, this place is not haunted. And as the show evolved and they allowed us to investigate, they wanted to do a show when we started, and we wanted to investigate. Then we started realizing, okay, they want to do a show, we still want to investigate, and we had a happy medium, because they were cool. They're like, we're not going to ask you to fake anything, and God, I'm not under any contract or anything. God's honest truth, they never asked us to fake a thing. They never asked us to fake anything. I never saw anything faked. That's the truth. But but they just said, just make it an interesting show, though. They give us some, be more animated, be more whatever, do this and that. And that's all we were asked to do. So there were a lot of times where we would go to a place, we just wouldn't find anything. And they were finally allowing us to say, we don't know. Or there was one time I think we said, you guys need to get a priest who can put you in contact with somebody. So nothing is black and white. It was really tough to compartmentalize yes or no. And I was glad that we were able to they were allowing us to have that flexibility with stuff.
Okay, one quick follow-up to that before we go to commercial. Okay, honest to God show, and I like the show. And I guess the thing I liked about it more than the investigating was I knew those were places I was never going to get to walk through.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I know about TV shows, okay, didn't have to fake anything. How many times did they tell you to walk into the room again?
Oh, constantly. If Paul and I would make fun of each other because you can't understand anything he says. I mumble, and a lot of times I'd walk in and I have my New York accent. I'd say, blah, 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 and like, okay, Scott, we don't know what the hell you said. Go back out and say it again. So that was the extent of our staging stuff, which makes sense, again. And then there's certain times if you're investigating, and let's say there's a tin roof outside and it's raining, you hear the rain on a tin roof, you know what it is, right? We know what it is when we're investigating. Even with the show, we would tag it, move on, do what we need to do. The only thing that when the show would say make it interesting would say, hey, you know what? My partner was Joe Chin all the time. I'm like, hey, Joe, that sounds like rain on a roof, but you know what? Why don't we go check it out? And guess what? We're making a little something out of nothing. We're not faking anything, but we're, enhancing the experience.
You gotta fill the hour. Okay, exactly. Everybody, we're going to take our first commercial break. We'll be back with more from Scott Tepperman. Everyone is talking about CBD oil. Most of us know that CBD is a cannabis compound that has significant medical benefits, but does not make people high. Its benefits include pain relief, anti-seizure properties, anxiety relief, fights cancer, reduces the risk of diabetes, and it is even used as a sleep aid. Blue Leaf Naturals CBD and hemp products are full-spectrum hemp extract oils. They use only hemp grown in Kentucky, supporting Kentucky farmers and businesses and helping you and your family stay healthy and well. Blue Leaf Naturals, created with care from seed to shelf. Visit their website at blueleafnaturals.com. Blue Leaf Naturals, a Kentucky proud company.
Horror. Movies. Fans. For. Life. On Facebook. Find us. For watch parties. For news. For memes. For friends. For life. Horror movie fans for life. Join us.
And welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest TV. Our guest tonight is Scott Tepperman of Ghost Hunters International, but now we're going a different direction. We're going to talk about his horror movie career, which, oddly enough, according to IMDb, started just about the time that you went off Ghost Hunters International, 2012, I believe. That's what IMDb says. It might be total bullshit because somebody else called me on it. Who was it that everything on IMDb was wrong? Just completely wrong. Anyway, so you how did you make the transition from being the TV guy, doing reality TV, to pretty much acting? Because you got, let's see here. You got 19 actor credits. I mean, you got some writing and an editor and composer. How did you make that transition? What was the story there?
Basically, I have always been a fan of the indie B movie, lower end horror film, lower budget, not necessarily lower end. A lot of those are stellar compared to Hollywood messes that come out. But so when I was on the show, I actually decided. I mean, I started realizing I'm very. Everyone will tell you this. I'm actually a very humble guy. I didn't change from when I was on the show to after I was on the show to while I was on the show. I've always been the same way. People have told me that, and I appreciate that, and I use that to my advantage too. But I started realizing that not only were people recognizing me from being on a show, it's like, oh, I know the shirt, or oh wait, know your face, and oh wait, you're Scott. Like I started getting an identity, and each one of us on the show had a following. So I was smart enough to reach out to a lot of these indie film companies on Facebook and other social media, and basically tell them, I see that you're doing a low budget production film. It's no budget. You're, regionally shot, whatever. I would love to be in your film. If you want anyone with some kind of a name, I guess I had a name that I thought would be at least marketable a little bit. Give me a shot. I'll fly out on my own dime. I'll show you what I can do. I did go to film school, and I did take some acting classes, mostly improv, but I had some experience, the rudimentary basics. And I said, just give me a shot. And as you certainly know, especially with the indie film field, it's very, very small. And word started spreading quickly, like he's not a horrendous actor. He's very easy to work with, and he does have a name that might help us sell a film a little bit. So I was able to start securing stuff like that. I did a Night of the Living Dead Genesis, which actually is yet to see a release, and there's just a lot of legalities with it. And Judith O'Dea returns as Barbara. She's in it. I mean, it's insane film. It looks incredible. But this was, I think, 2010, and I had hit up the producers from Ghost Hunters International at that time, and I said, I'm anticipating getting this role. Would this be a problem? I was lining everything up, and they said there's not a problem at all. So I started lining all these things up just in case. And when the show ended, I was lucky enough to just roll that and keep it going and roll right into stuff. And at the time, I had an agent who also represented somebody that I knew as an indie actor, Jim O'Rear, which he's not a stranger to Scarefest. He's been here over the years several times. And he and I started really hitting it off. It was a Ghost Hunters International event. He was there, and then they had a couple people from Friday the 13th. And everyone was talking to everybody, but nobody knew who Jim was. And I'm like, I watch your movies. I know exactly who you are. So I asked him, and we hit it off. And I said, if you ever have any roles available in upcoming movies, let me know. I'd love to, try out for him. And he's like, give me a couple weeks, because he had another partner at the time. He's like, give me a couple weeks. We may have something for you. Contact me, just like he said, in a couple weeks. Gave me a role in a horror film. And we have basically been working together ever since. People liked our chemistry a lot and started saying, you guys have unforced chemistry on screen. So 3 or 4 years after that, we partnered up and formed our Los Bastards Productions. And we probably have done 12 or 14 films together, appeared in that many. And then we've done, I'd say, 5 or 6 together that we've actually put out. And the newest one that I have, I'm actually going to be screening at Scarefest, which I'm very excited for everyone to see, because it's a good one.
Yeah, now that would be Cruel Summer. Now,
Cruel Summer.
I do have to ask. You realize you all are finishing up this movie, and then another damn movie comes out with the same damn name.
Right? No. What happened was we did this film called Devil Music, and the timing of this is actually going to be really good, because these two films are going to be on the heels of each other. We filmed Devil Music, I think it was 2018, and we don't know what the hell happened. This camera guy that we worked with for ages, he's an experienced guy. He's been in the industry since the 80s. There was like camera errors, operator errors, lost footage, some corrupted footage, which was uncontrolled, audio issues, and all this other stuff that in lesser hands, I was talking to Jim earlier today. We were talking about devil music, which we later titled Hell's Bells. It's AC not ACDC not, but in lesser hands, the film would have never seen the light of day. It was just so damaged. We lost about maybe a third or more than a third of the entire film. So we painstakingly took our time putting it back together. And during that time, we had marketing for it, we had everything else out. During that time, there was another film that had just been released. It was just getting just announced to be released. And it's not an original story. It's the Devil and Daniel Webster. It's basically a guy that sells his soul to the devil for a chance to make it big. And then the devil comes to collect what's due to him when the time is up. It's like, oh God, you devil. It's all these types of movies, it's not original story. But this film that had a similar storyline, all of a sudden changed. The title was totally different. And somehow it changed it to Devil Music. And in the artwork that we had already put out, had been out there so long because of all the problems with the film. Somehow the artwork ended up changed a little bit, but showing up as their film. And we're like, what's going on here? So we were like, let's change the name of this film. Let's figure out what's going to work. And we liked Hell's Bells. We went through a lot of titles like Devil Struck and all that. We wanted something rock because we play like these rock losers that want to be big, and everyone comes after us. And we ended up with Hell's Bells. We liked the alliteration, and we liked the fact that AC/DC. I mean, it's AC/DC. Why not do that? There were a lot of titles out there already, Hell's Bells from years ago, that it wasn't a copyright issue. We're like, let's just take that title and go with it. And we wanted to make sure that we hit it hard, and we always like to turn people's heads a little bit. I feel like we're like the Quentin Tarantino of indie horror, because we try to bring out dust off people that haven't worked in ages or that haven't appeared to work in ages and put them in films again. Nightblade, we got Todd Bridges from Different Strokes. And then for Hell's Bells, we got Mark Skippy Price from Family Ties, who is absolutely badass. And he kept telling us that this was the first film he did in almost 30 years. And my brain went right away to his last film was Killer Tomatoes Eat France. And that's okay in my book. That's pretty badass. So we got him on board. We changed the title to Hell's Bells. We knew that was going to be work, and that was fine. When we started Cool Summer, I totally had the title for Cool Summer. I wanted to do it. This was when we were thinking of the concept of the name. We knew this TV show was coming out on Freeform, and at that time it was called Last Summer. And it was called Last Summer all the way. And I was telling Jim, I said, watch them change this name to Cool Summer. It's not a problem. We're going to call it Los Bastards Cool Summer. It's a totally different story. It's not the same story, at least.
Right. I didn't figure it was.
We're going to go with it. We're going to just go see what happens. And obviously that somehow they changed it to Cool Summer. We're like, that's not a problem. We didn't miss a beat. Kept going with it. And our film is Cool Summer, but it's marketed as Los Bastards Cool Summer. And it's a totally different, it's an 80s slasher flick, essentially. And it's not really anything to do with the show, which I heard is great. I just haven't watched it.
It just hit me. I don't know. I probably popped up on YouTube or something, and I'm like, wait a minute. Now, Cruel Summer, you're in post-production. You're almost done with it.
This weekend, it'll be completely done.
Oh, there you go. And then they're going to enter it in the film festival, everybody. So our Patreon judges, by the way, if you go ahead and join Patreon, you'll get to see it before Scarefest. But otherwise, we will be the plans are to show it at Scarefest as part of our film festival, because he's got it in because he knows me and I'm not in charge of that part. Let's go.
Honestly, I'm excited to see. I'm honestly excited to see the reaction to it, because of the fact that it's a very ambitious film. Every time we do a film, we try to push ourselves, and we don't like to disclose our budgets, but the people that are very close to us are very surprised that our films come out looking like they do for the amount of money we spend. And I can tell you, Cool Summer, whatever you're thinking we spent, you can probably knock a ton of money off. That we spent, I would say, close to zero on this film, and we probably have, I think, 17 kills on screen. And it's an 80-minute movie. It's just a wild ride. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you on Nightblade, did you mostly just plan that around having a lot of boobies on screen?
Yeah, but essentially, again, for this is the perfect audience for it, because all the horror fans out there, that was our ultra low budget somewhat of a reimagining of Fear City, which was a cult favorite of mine from the 80s with Billy D. Williams in it. That's why we got Todd Bridges. Like, if you watch that film, our characters are named after the actresses in the film. Some of the lines are lifted from Fear City. It's Fear City, zero budget style, Skid Row style.
It I was the kill scenes, I thought all were great. Honestly, okay. Yeah. I never done this with someone who wrote a movie before. I do it with actors all the time. Scott, the ending was weak. And I don't mean weak. The story was fine, but the end, and I don't even mean how it ended. I mean the fact that they left the guy on the couch with a bullet wound, and Todd Bridges just is like, yeah, okay, I'll call 911 here in a minute.
Right.
Okay,
right.
Now that kind of bugged me.
It did, because we thought that we wrote this film very tightly, and I thought it was smartly written. It was funny. I thought it was, and I thought it was pretty good. It moved along well and everything else. The problem is we had rented this strip club, and that was a big part of our budget. It was like, I think $1,500 to rent it per day. And we were there like 4 or 5 days. And the last day we were there, we had like 6-hour shoot planned, and it was a hard out. We needed to be out at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. No matter what, we had to be out. They were opening. The guy was cool, but he's like, give me my money. You guys got the hell out because we're opening. So that was the day that Todd Bridges, and God bless him, he did an awesome job. But when he first showed up, he was there, I think, on a set 2 days with us. And he's looking at the script, and he's like, he literally thought that I was going to show up and play myself. Like, he's like, I thought I was going to do a glorified Todd Bridges cameo. Like, no, we're putting you to work. So we gave him the script, and there were a lot of lines in it. And he was cool. He changed some stuff. He's like, can we change this? Or I don't know if I'd say that, or this may be easier to say. We're like, that's cool. Do what you need to do. The very last day, unfortunately, we were trying to fly through everything, and that whole scene unfolded in real time. We filmed it, morning was earlier there, the end was at the end of the day, and he totally flubbed lines, dropped lines, everything else. It would have cut together so much more, but the main part that flubbed was the end of the movie. And we're like, really had no time to pick it up, had no time to do whatever. It is what it is. Jim, I think, did an admirable job putting it together. I think it worked, but it was going to be much more tighter than that.
Okay, yeah, in all honesty, I was sitting there, I'm like, okay, they showed, first I thought he was dead, first of all. Now, I'm giving spoiler alerts, everybody. But it's on Tubi. If you want to watch it, it's on Tubi TV right now. Right. I'm sitting there, and then he indicates that he's alive, and I'm like, you should call somebody, dude. You really should. Anyway, commercial break. We'll be right back afterwards with a few announcements, do some business.
Spirit Mechanics is here to help. Their background includes many different specialties across the metaphysical spectrum, including alchemy, shamanism, Celtic witchcraft, angelic magic, astral travel, and more.
With over 30 years combined experience in the group, you can be confident in their ability to help. If there is a question you have that you cannot answer, they will do their best to assist you.
Metaphysics can be intimidating, confusing, and unfortunately, abused. Spirit Mechanics takes pride in being selfless in the pursuit of helping others, being humble and honest with their clients about their questions, and lastly, maintaining a professional and personable atmosphere. They want you to feel as you are coming to a close friend, and they will do everything in their power to make you comfortable and safe.
TellMeTarot.com. Rare tarot and oracle decks for the discerning enthusiast or collector. Our decks are not for everyone. If you are a rare deck collector, art collector, or simply fall in love with a deck, then we might be for you. Right now, get 10% off your first order just for subscribing to their newsletter. Shipping is just $5.99 in the United States. SavvyTarot.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest Television. Okay, as host of Scarefest Television, one of my favorite parts of the job is getting to announce who's coming to Scarefest. My least favorite part of the job is to announce when someone has to cancel. And tonight, we are canceling. Someone has to cancel. It hits me personally because I was dying to meet this person. I've met him before, but I just haven't seen him in like 5 or 10 years. But anyway, Mr. Dave Schrader has had to cancel. Now, what has happened is, I started to do this in a way that I thought would cause an internet panic. I was going to say he's a victim of COVID-19. But then I said, no. What it is, no, he didn't have COVID-19. He signed up to do a cruise in 2019 scheduled for 2020, the year of everything. So he was scheduled to do a cruise. It was Chris Jericho Celebrity Cruise. Of course, it got canceled because the one place you were not allowed to be in 2020 was on a damn boat. So he thought he was in the clear, hadn't heard anymore, but his contract said if it's canceled for any reason and rescheduled, you have to show up. Guess what? You heard last week or so that they've rescheduled it for the last freaking week, or last 2 weeks, whatever it is. The dates overlap. The point is the dates overlap, and he is under contract to follow up on that. So he had to pull out of Scarefest and honor his commitment to the cruise line for the Chris Jericho cruise. So we did. Dave is not going to be able to be with us this year. We found out literally 2 days ago. We wanted to get it out as quick as we could. Dave, I'll pull for you next year, buddy, because I miss you. I miss you, and I don't get to go that many places. But on the brighter side, a Scarefest favorite, Calypso Clown. Mr. Lee Davis will be bringing his character Calypso Clown to entertain the crowd, particularly the children. Calypso Clown will be back this year. Yeah, and he'd bring that damn cannon that I hate. But everything else about the man I love, but the cannon is a little annoying. Also, now this one's interesting, people. Artist Jay Hammond. Now, we don't normally consider artist entertainment. However, this guy does something for the kids. Trading Capes is a program that Jay Hammond has been running for about 5 years at shows like ours. Children 12 and under have the opportunity when visiting his table to trade a drawing with him. The drawings are done on a special printed Trading Capes sheet. They don't have to do them on the spot. They can take the paper home, bring it back, or if they can bring a piece of art with them if they're only there for the day. So in other words, he's got rules, but he bends them. But he gives them a free black and white head sketch style drawing on the Trading Capes paper. So he'll be at Scarefest. Little entertainment for the kiddos, 12 and under. Look him up on Facebook. I believe it's under J Hammond Art. Look him up on Facebook. What am I saying? The banner's right there, and he's on Instagram. He's on, J Hammond Art. Look him up and give him a like and follow. And if you have any questions, he's the guy to ask about it. Now, don't forget, tickets to Scarefest are on sale now at thescarefest.com. We're coming up. We're less than 5 months away, people. October 22nd through 24th, 2021. Also, tickets are still for sale. We're not even, I thought we would be further along to selling out. We're not. There's still plenty of spots open for throwing axes with serial killers. So that'll be on the Friday night, the 22nd. You can throw axes at Battle Axes of Lexington with Kane Hodder, Ari Mahaloff, Robert Meeks, Rob Mello, Steve Nappy, and we're planning on adding about 5 more. The Central Kentucky Mystical Market for June is coming up at the end of the month. It's the 26th and 27th. Lexington's premier monthly psychic and holistic event. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a heads up. The Lost Ear t-shirts and sweatshirts, we will be having a clearance sale on those. So if you haven't got those yet, go to the Mystical Market and you'll be able to get them at a discount. Speaker applications. They're taking speaker applications until the end of this month. They want to have that nailed down by July. I think the website I think June 1st was like the deadline. They've extended it, but through the month, if you want to speak at Scarefest, you can go ahead and turn in an application through June. They want to have that nailed down, though, by July. Film festival entries are open. Go to thescarefest.com, click the link, or go to filmfreeway.com/thescarefest. We've got feature films, they're called, and shorts. So if you're horror, paranormal, the one thing we're light on this year is documentaries. We are light in the documentary category, and I would think there would be a lot of budding filmmakers out there who would like to get into that genre, if you will, and I would think that would be a good way to do it. And then stop by the Scarefest gift shop at scarefestradio.com. You can still buy Scarefest hats. You can buy the t-shirts too, but they're not on sale on the website. But we get some Scarefest TV hats and such. And COVID mask. We still have some COVID masks. Okay. Scott.
Yep.
Your background is amazing. VHS tape collection, more than the video store that I actually went to before a big one opened in town. I had one of the little strip malls where they didn't even have the movies. They had them under the counter, even the clean ones, even the G-rated ones, that kind. Have you done an inventory? How many do you even know how many you have?
Yeah, I mean, I have CED discs and laser discs and Betamax tapes, probably about 200 of those, not a ton of those, but VHS, I have probably about 2,500 right now.
2,500.
The whole room behind me is like this whole,
Where did that enthusiasm come from? Other than just loving movies, I'm assuming. But it's okay. I used to buy a lot of VHS tapes. I'd wait till the video store put them on. They're getting where they had 5 copies. They only needed 2. I'd buy one of the $9.99 property of so and so.
Right.
So most people just thought I stole them, but I didn't actually pay for it. But to have that kind of collection, I've seen you actually just go online and say, "Hey, anybody got any VHS tapes they want to get rid of?" So what makes you devote a room in your house to that?
It was cool. I'll actually give this. It was my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and she still stayed with me. But when we decided to move from renting to buying, she even said, "Yes, I want to make sure you have a room dedicated just for that." Amazing woman, amazing. But basically, I've been collecting VHS forever. I mean, I'm an 80s baby, or a 70s baby, but 80s kid. I just like them better. I think I think the artwork is cooler. I think a lot of these horror films, especially the lower budgets, they lend themselves to looking better on tape. The more if you watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre on a well-worn media VHS copy where it's very dark and whatever, it's much more creepier than looking at one that's crisp and clear in Blu-ray transfer. As amazing as it looks and as amazing as some detail picks up, you lose a lot in it as well. And I think that lends itself to a lot of films looking scarier on VHS. I think the artwork is lazy on most DVDs and Blu-ray. I think there are a lot of cut and paste jobs. Back then, VHS, basically, there was no internet. So their whole marketing was to market to your audience. You had to get everything you wanted to convey to people on a cover, front and back. And then you had the big boxes, which I actually have a ton right here. But, you had these, not endorsing the movie or whatever, but this is a big box. And it just basically took up more space on the shelf. And a cool thing, and I think Charles Band, who, Full Moon Man, he said this himself quite a few times, but you would have a movie that cost $1 million and a movie that cost $10,000 occupying the same amount of space on a shelf, and it kind of leveled the playing field for that. And it was basically people just rushing roulette. I'm going to pick this one. I'm going to pick this one. I think it was pretty cool. I think especially getting copies, like you said, that people a lot of collectors like to get pristine copies of tapes. That's great, and that's very sought after. I like that. but I like getting a lot of rental copies. I think getting a copy where you have a label that says it was from Nova Scotia or Trenton, New Jersey, or whatever. That's a battle scar. That's history. That's a trail of the tape, and that's awesome to know that this was in someone's house and they popped it in and they watched it with their families and friends. There's a lot of history. Some of these tapes I have still have the rental cards in there, like literally, this is not, but like a regular note card with who rented it for how much or what date. That's pretty cool. You can't really replicate that anymore. I like the fact when you watch a movie, like I'll give you an example, Return to Killer Tomatoes. George Clooney was a star of that movie. He's not even mentioned on the VHS because at that time when it came out, he was I hate saying nobody, but he was basically undiscovered. Now you get a copy of it on DVD or Blu-ray, and it's like, ER is George Clooney, and it kind of loses some because you're kind of meshing timelines, and I don't really like that. I don't know how to explain that, but there's a huge difference to me, and I certainly, I still buy DVD when I can, and I understand that people buy Blu-ray. I don't particularly like Blu-ray because to me, a lot of DVD players upconvert DVDs and make DVDs look better anyway. I don't find that Blu-rays, unless it's a real hooked up Criterion edition or something, I don't feel like it's worth the money. I think a lot of the bonus features are on DVD, and I think Blu-rays kind of waste the amount of space that they have by a lot of them don't put much stuff on there. So I kind of don't really like that market. And also, if you see, VHS had a longevity of 40 years or something for the market. DVD was not very long, and then Blu-ray came along, and that's even shorter, and now it's all streaming. So those weren't the greatest formats in the world. Those weren't the most preferred formats in the world. VHS is enduring.
The only thing I will pick apart about your argument there, I didn't like the big format boxes because I never owned a video rack that they would fit on, and I'd buy one and then it would, it'd blow the whole aesthetics of the thing. I do agree with you. Right. Now, like Blu-ray, my reasoning for not going Blu-ray has been a little different. I still got the old style Netflix thing where every time I mail them a DVD back, they send me one. Right. But the thing about Blu-ray, okay, every DVD player that I have bought from day one has been a piece of shit. And it doesn't matter if I spent $20 at the dollar store or go to an electronics store and spend $150. After 6 months or so, and my house is dirty. Okay, I'll give you that. I'm a farmer. But I've had DVDs just start skipping this all over the place. And the other thing is, they always come, now they come with these neat little software packages. You can go on and stream from Netflix, Hulu. The software is outdated in 2 weeks after you buy it. And so this pisses me off. So now I'm going back to, when I go for my next DVD player, the one I got now is held up a little bit. My next DVD player, I'm planning on spending $20 at Rite Aid. That's just how I feel about it. Okay, we got one more commercial break, and we'll come back with guest Scott Tepperman. Mama Ruby offers fun vendor-based events that focus primarily on the metaphysical and spiritual aspects of our lives. Well, 2020 didn't go as planned, to say the least. Since Mama Ruby's can't bring the vendors to you in person, they still encourage you to support them online. For links to these and other outstanding artists, craftspeople, vendors, and psychics, visit mamarubies.com and click shop.
Hey, this is Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly. As I sit here and get ready for my first gig at a convention over a year and a half, almost 2 years, because there was several months before COVID. We all got shut down 2 weeks before I was supposed to do Lexington Comic-Con, which is that and Scare Fest are my two favorite shows to do. I had another movie planned this week, and I was reading an article on Bloody Disgusting, which is a horror website that I recommend. I've read it for years. The article is written by Matt Donato. We're going to talk briefly about remakes. Well, one of my favorite movies of all time is John Carpenter's The Thing. So yeah, you can do a remake. You just have to do something different. So I'm going to defend something that I haven't really talked about on here. I've talked about it on Bonehead. And it's Fede Alvarez's 2013 remake of The Evil Dead. His article that I was just talking about from Bloody Disgusting defends it and says it's probably one of the best horror films made in the last decade. And you know what? I completely agree. The remake of The Evil Dead is one of the best horror films made in the last decade. It's damn sure one of the bloodiest and most violent and balls to the wall horror. It's different though. And Fede, the director, even said himself, you know, back in the day, in his day, he's about the same age as me. When we were watching it, and you probably some of you all too in the 80s, they wouldn't have called this a remake. It had just been a sequel, right? Evil Dead 2 is kind of a remake of the first Evil Dead, but they still called it a sequel. You see the Oldsmobile, you see many, many references to the other movie of Ash. It doesn't take away from any of that. When I first heard that they're going to make a remake of this movie, I threw my hands in the air. I was so mad because Sam Raimi's my favorite director, and the Evil Dead means so much to me. I saw Army of Darkness and then went back to find those movies when I was 12, 13. And I had, back in the day, you had to hunt hard to find things, especially in Eastern Kentucky in a holler. So when they said they're going to make a remake, I was pissed. And then I started seeing trailers and stills, and I thought, well, this looks pretty good. And then I saw it, of course, opening weekend, and I said, that's one of the best remakes I've ever seen. Is it as good as John Carpenter's The Thing, which is a remake of The Thing from Another World? No. This is dark. This is dark and sinister. And most of the effects are practical. The only CGI that was used for this is later just to sweeten things and remove things and make things a little bit better. They used over 70,000 gallons of blood for this movie. 50,000 gallons of it's just for the ending. And if you've ever seen it, you know what I mean. They shot 95% of this movie in sequence. And the reason they did that is because of the blood. Most movies, if you don't know this, are made out of sequence. They shoot the ending here and this here, and people are coming in. This movie was shot 95% in sequence as it happens. And the reason you do that is for continuity. You know, if you bloody up this room, but you have to shoot when they walked into it 2 weeks later, well, that you got to clean it. And no, they shot in sequence. It's a little more time consuming, and I can't say enough about it. Richard Roper, the critic, when it came out, I couldn't believe this, gave it 1 star and said it was just gore, torture porn. Actually, this came out towards the end of torture porn, and it came out the same year as The Conjuring. And The Conjuring gave us a whole Conjuring universe, right? From Annabelle and all those other films. Evil Dead didn't. We didn't get the sequel to it that I hoped we would. We ended up getting Ash vs. Evil Dead from Stars, those 3 seasons. I enjoyed those, but it's different. This Evil Dead movie is dark and mean. It's mean, and I love it. So if you have never seen it and you're like shit on sequels and most of the time, or shit on remakes, and most of the time I agree with you. I don't feel that way at all about the Evil Dead remake by Fede Alvarez. So if you've never seen it, do me a favor, check it out. Also, if you're at the con I'm going to be at, just come up and say hi. I'm going to have some Bonehead stickers. I'm happy to be out. I'm a little hoarse tonight for some odd reason. Of course, I would be right before I start back to work, but I'm happy to be out. And I'm excited to see you all. I'm really excited to see you all in September. Or October. Sorry. What is today? This has been Joe Lewis, Bonehead Weekly.
And thank you, Joe, and welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest TV. And we got a few more minutes with our guest, Scott Tepperman of Ghost Hunters International. And I was going to save this segment just for his upcoming appearances, to let him plug whatever he wants to plug. But I had 2 questions from earlier segments that I did not get time to ask before the commercial break, so I'm going to do both of them. When you were ghost hunting, do you feel like you learned anything, or did your belief structure change from beginning to end?
I do believe that I mean, I've experienced stuff over the years, but I do believe that I'm much more in tune with my surroundings. When I joined, the only team I ever joined before I decided to go off on my own team and then got GHI shortly after, there were basically the whole team was a bunch of women that were a good 15, 20 years older than myself. And I have a problem with that. They were all women, and every time we wanted to...
Oh, we lost audio. Just start doing this, everybody, during the commercial break. Hopefully he'll be back. Hopefully. Okay. Well, darn. Oh, Oh, Zoom crashed. Okay, well, everybody, I guess that's the end of that. So, that was a Zoom problem. That's why it didn't show up on my board. It was a problem with Zoom. So anyway, we're going to just go to me. And everybody, I had such a good question to follow up on that. My final question was on Nightblade. Did he hire actual strippers or just do a casting call for women that wanted to show their bazongas on screen? That was my big epiphany. So, oh well. Thanks, Scott. I'll text him after the show and tell him what happened. But, everybody, this has been Scarefest TV. Next week, we got Tiffany Shepis, by the way. Tiffany Shepis. Or as I said the first time that we had her on the show, Tiffany effing Shepis. She will be here next week. See you, everybody.